There's 49 of them. But then again, fortune favors the bold, so let's attack them. Even though that's a lot. Now, while this spell's in the early stages, let me tell you about liches. You should already know all the core Necropolis creatures, skeletons, ghouls and ghosts. Liches are of course elite Necropolis creatures, but share some traits with the core ones. Namely, they share all the passive abilities all Necropolis creatures possess. Namely, they are not affected by morale either way. They receive 20% more damage from light-based sources, on top of which light-based healing spells can actually be used to damage them. As for the bad news, they have a 20% resistance to water damage, are immune to poison, disease, blinding and mind influence. Let me remind you, these are passives shared by all Necropolis creatures. Now let's talk about what makes liches special. They have a single additional ability called Dark Embrace, which, if you have been paying attention to what's happening on the battlefield, you might have seen as a little red debuff appearing on some of my units, a dark cloud surrounding them when hit, or even the ringing sound announcing it. It makes the target of their attack suffer from a 40% vulnerability to dark magic damage. You might think to yourselves, well, that's not all that bad, there's no enemy here on the battlefield, so we won't have to worry about any additional damage from magic, right? That is actually not the case. If you remember back to what I told you way back about creature damage, you will recall that they can either deal might or magic damage, and if the latter is the case, they deal a certain type of magic damage. Like our priestesses, for instance, deal light magic damage, which is great against the undead. Liches deal dark magic damage. Except these liches, which won't be dealing any more damage. Slava almost leveled up. Oh well, let's go for the portal and see what awaits us on the other side. Oh my, free stuff! Artifacts simply begging to be picked up! Well, not exceptional artifacts, but they are artifacts, so I will pick them up at the very least. Ooh, we get Life Drain on our scroll, a spell in instant form! Just read aloud and let the residual magic take care of the rest for you, no mana points needed. Yeah, that sounds great until you read the fine print where it says effectiveness of your instant spell will vary depending on your familiarity with the arcane arts. So yeah, just because you own a spell scroll, don't suddenly get the wrong idea, you are not a wizard. You're merely a sword-wielding guy with a scroll, so you can cast a pathetically weak version of a given spell once. In other news, remember what I promised you yesterday? Do you? Well, bam! Town Hall in Stormchurch, finally. And now we can get back to picking up artifacts. War Drums of the Region, 2 more core creatures per week. Just what I like. And a treasure chest, so we get more experience, so we get a level up. Slava is now level 7. First, let's have a look at the vast swaths of land under our control. And now I can spend my ability point. Let's see. I could go with Mass Stand Your Ground, which increases my defense of all my troops. Warlord's Command is also nice, as it allows a given unit to act now instead of when supposed to, as determined by the initiative. Oh, Pressed Attack is awesome in conjunction with High Morale. The ability itself is cast on a single friendly stack, and each time it is about to attack, your hero charges in and deals damage first. With High Morale, obviously this means that a stack can be hit twice by the hero and twice by the creature itself. Which is awesome, but I think I'll go with Must Stand Your Ground. Gotta keep my boys protected, you know. They deserve it. And we get Must Stand Your Ground. I think we're done here, so let's exit through the one-way spirit gate, and we're back. And I don't think there's anything more to clear around here, other than these poor ghouls. So let's get rid of them. A single strike should be enough. And hooray! We have gotten rid of the ghouls. Oh, there are also the vampires. Of course. And there's quite a bit of resources for Lady Cordelia to collect. Well, it's done. She'll collect a pile of gold next turn as soon as Slava gets rid of the vampires, and that's it. This area will be clear. For now, let's upgrade the marketplace into an advanced marketplace, which allows us to not only send resources to allies, which we do not have, but purchase artifacts, as long as we have the gold. Some mediocre artifacts and some pretty nice ones. Of course, some might be unusable because they are meant for magic-based heroes instead of those focused on might. Let's see, Slava does not have a cloak. We might buy him one. We have plenty of gold to spare. So let's go here with Lady Cordelia. Yeah, marketplace, artifacts, yes. Content chest, finger, gauntlet. He doesn't have a gauntlet either. But let's go for the cloak first. Plus 6 magic defense, all plus 10 magic defense against light magic. That's pointless. We won't be wait a minute, yeah, we will be attacked by light magic wielding foes. We will be attacked by Haven heroes, and they use light magic. So let's go with Cloak of Elrath. Hooray! And I'll hand it over to Slava as soon as I can. I should recruit some more heroes as soon as I have the money. I need 10,500 pieces of gold, which is a lot. So I'll first recruit the creatures for the next week before even thinking about getting additional heroes. Ah yes, and the vampires. A horde of vampires. Let's purge this land of their dreadful presence. Swift little bastards, aren't they? They close the distance uncomfortably fast. Way too soon for my liking. Okay, before I do anything, let me quickly drag my skills into the slots. Pity I can only use mass stand your ground once per combat, but oh well, that should suffice. So, everyone, stand your... Wait a minute, that only makes sense if they deal might damage, which thank the logos they do. Okay, everyone, stand your ground! Let's use even more protection. Guardian Angel, hear my call. Descend upon the sisters who worship your dragon with their every heartbeat. Okay, now time for the offense. Pump them full of crossbow bolts. And let's burn the retaliation by first attacking them with a unit they cannot harm. Now for a skillful stab with a sharp polearm. And that's 15 vampires down, but remember they kill themselves by dealing damage. Unfortunately for them, I take defending my troops very seriously. Also, they should have known better than to attack one of my units while standing next to Praetorians. When it comes to healing, sisters are doing it for themselves. All of them back on their feet thanks to using their own spells. And now is the time to show finesse. I'm going to heal up my mighty Praetorians. And strike with them, ending the battle. Only a single crossbowman was lost in that exchange, and his sacrifice will not be forgotten as this diversion ensured the safety of all other troops. By the way, you know what's awesome and brings a huge smile to the face of any heroes of Might and Magic player worth his salt? Acquiring a new gold mine. The satisfaction is unparalleled. Conquering castles and winning huge battles obviously has its own very special place in my heart, but it's this crucial resource which makes all of that possible. You know, he who controls the spies, etc. Now that we have secured additional income, I'm truly tempted to go on a shopping spree with Lady Cordelia. Slava could certainly use some gauntlets before heading west. But I don't want to buy cheap crap and I cannot afford the right gear just yet. Even if I chose not to build anything this turn, I would still not be able to get them even next turn. Not to mention that next week is coming shortly and I'm going to need that gold to recruit all the troops on Monday to transfer them while Slava is still reasonably nearby. But right now I am going to transfer the unnecessary artifacts to Lady Cordelia. So let's see what I will keep and what I will transfer. I need the world drums, as they are a part of a set. I cannot use the alchemist robe. The Thunderbolt helmet I will leave since I have a better headgear already. I will also retain the scroll, as well as the War Horn of Legion, which is also a part of the same set as the world drums. And I will take the ring and the 4-leaf clover. But there's a lot that Lady Cordelia will get. She will get the economic artifact, of course, the Purse of Gold, the Endless Purse of Gold, the Thunderblade helmet, as well as the Alchemist's robe, and the Supreme Crown of Magister. And that's it. Because the scroll works by just being in the backpack. Back at Stormchurch, we're slowly but steadily running out of things to build, which pleases me. Some see the castle half empty because there's lots of buildings I will never be able to erect here because this is the tutorial. I see the castle half full, as it has almost reached its full potential of having all the buildings it can. By the way, remember the speech and the fight we had against the other elementals about 15 minutes ago? Boy, was that painful, so many sisters were lost. But that's behind us now, and things are only going to get better. Now the first thing we should do is secure this middle area, north of the crossroads, and flag this neutral dwelling. Old strategy game habits die hard. As I've recently acquired more resources, I need to get more production. In other words, ways to spend them. As for our beloved Castle of Stormchurch, only the Hall of Heroes and the unique structure remain available. Think about this. Angel Watch fills the Guardian Angel gauge to the first rank in the first turn of any battle, so it's not outlandish to suppose that 2 of them fill it to the second rank. Unfortunately, that's meaningless since Slava only has the racial ability on the very first level. I'm still not a big fan of the Statue of Revelation for some reason. It would be logical for me to build it, there's no advantage I gain from a second Angel Watch in this level. But you know me, I sometimes make decisions like this and win anyway, in the long run. And in the week of hotness, let's recruit all the troops we can, hand them over to Lady Cordelia. Not enough money left to get any decent artifacts, so let's immediately set out to meet out with Slava at some point. As for him, let's attack the Sentinels. Beating them should truly be a trivial task. Let's just wait for them to approach. Oh, they wait for me. Huh. There's not much they can wait for, other than their own demise. Now, let's cast Guardian Angel. Just in case one of my 205 Praetorians breaks a nail while trying to get his hands on one of the 7 Sentinels left to kill. No losses, obviously. So some creatures would be honored, and they join my army, and I will convert this dwelling, of course.
However this ends, Kral, I'll keep my promise to your people.
Good to fight with knights who honor oaths, who help friends. Should go to war together more often.
6 Sentinels, 5 crossbowmen and 4 sisters. The dwelling to the east gives me exactly the same numbers, which means I can simply relocate Adelaide and Umberto to the center, the control of which is guaranteed by me holding the central fort. Back here they will be able to assist in resource collection as well as speed up any artifact or troop transfer if necessary. As for Slava, let's send him to get experience trifold from the Sentinels, the Stone of Enlightenment and the churches nearby. Instead of using Must Stand Your Ground, I'll go for a heroic strike against one of the Sentinel groups. Why? Because our enemies will not be able to close the distance within this round, and as such, we do not need protection just yet. Also, Slava's heroic strike applies a Mark of the Heretic debuff, which, as you should remember, means additional damage from every attack my troops make. 1 more point of damage per creature to be precise. And even though the numbers are dwarfed by our regular forces, let me introduce the stronghold reinforcements accompanying us in this battle. You should already be somewhat familiar with the Maulers, but as a reminder, their shields protect them from a quarter of range damage, and the Taste of Blood means each of them deals 1 more point of it each time the group gets hit by the enemy, which stacks up to 4 times for a total bonus of 4 times the number of surviving Maulers. Along with goblins, they are affected by the demonic lineage, which means 10% resistance to fire, 10% vulnerability to light, and light-based healing spells can be used to harm them, but may as well serve the intended purpose when the creatures in question are on your side. Goblins additionally can use the crippling traps to damage and slow down enemies, an attempted which you might have noticed earlier in the spell. Harpies have no demonic lineage, but merely a peculiar way of attacking their foes. Hit and run, basically. They close the distance to attack and back away as soon as they are done. They will not be for the counter-attack if one is still due. So, there you go. 3 cold stronghold creatures. Goblins, Orcish Maulers and Harpies. Here, as you can see, I am in a bit of a predicament. My sisters are engulfed in a guardian angel, how long which is going to last I have no idea, and I'd like to burn the Sentinels' retaliation, but their turn is right afterwards, and with it they gain a new one. As such, I decide to back away, saving the lives of my sisters but losing all the remaining Harpies. Worse yet, my racial gauge is not yet filled enough for another angel, so I have to resort to cost efficiency by forcing an overkill on the enemy's part. Or, in other words, I send the Maulers to die. Now, you might get the impression that I have no regard for the lives of my stronghold troops. In my defense, I am fairly certain this is how they like to approach problems, head on. Would the Orcish Maulers rather step aside and let my other troops suffer the damage? I don't think so. They'd most likely argue that they'd rather die in battle than live as cowards. Even from a utilitarian point of view, my decision was right. I saved the lives by sacrificing less of them rather than more. Of course, feel free to make up your own mind on whether I'm being racist or not. In the meantime, this encounter is over. We've gained a decent bit of experience from the fight. Now let's visit the obelisk and the chest. With all the movement points of my heroes already spent, the only thing left to do is to visit our castle and see what we can accomplish there. By building the Hall of Heroes, symbolized obviously by a wooden mug at the bottom of the town screen, we have just finished upgrading Storm Church. There's nothing more we can erect, and as such, all our further resources will be spent, well, on units first and foremost, but anything left will buy us the best artifacts available on the marketplace. But for now, let's finally finish the troop transfer. Slava gets 27 priestesses, 28 crossbowmen, and 45 more praetorians from Lady Cordelia. And can now proceed north to read the signpost before he heads even further. Heary, heary, Imperial Fort. This signpost was originally an Imperial decree ordering the evacuation of the lands currently inhabited by the Orcs. It seems that a clever Orc by anyone's status has doctored the original text impressively, writing a decree of his own above the title of the official document. If Emperor Baby Thief want Orc lands, Emperor come and try. It seems the efforts of the Holy Church of Elrath to teach the Orcs to read and write were a success after all. I am honestly impressed. Now let's ignore all the resources. We'll leave them for Lady Cordelia to gather. And on our way to conquer another town. Or to retake another orcish village, should I say. Of course, send Lady Cordelia to gather the resources, Umberto and Adelaide to the central region to boost recruitment, while Slava is going to, as soon as we end this turn, attack the vampires. A horde of vampires at that. 62 of them. Ah, vampires. To recap, when they defend, first attack against them misses and they heal by dealing damage. Also the usual undead passives apply: immune to disease, vulnerable to light. Look it up if you both want to know and have forgotten already. They deal regular might damage, so using Stand Your Ground was justified. We call upon the angel to engulf the sisters, since I find we have a decent bunch of them and sure as hell do not want to keep losing them over and over. As for the goblins, it feels almost awkward attacking with them, you know? The way vampires move makes their traps useless, but they still can deal the measly range damage and there's absolutely no downside to using it, so I keep doing so, even if it is but a drop in the sea of my DPS needs. And one goblin goes down. Fun fact, if that goblin was still alive, I would have 20% more goblins than I do now. I know that's basic math, but it shows you just how ridiculously little of these guys I have. Also, evasive maneuvers. Right now my troops are almost indestructible. And I'm hesitant to go through with this, but hey, they almost killed one of them. Not to mention that only one went down. I mean, one goblin went down. That's a pathetically weak ranged handful of cold units attacking an almost equally sized bunch of melee elites. Damn, the little goblins that could. Okay, time to stab vampires to death with my guardian angel engulfed crossbowmen. Mostly to burn the retaliations, of course. So now my Praetorians can get rid of one stack, the sisters of another. Wait a minute, let's heal up before this battle ends. We get all the sisters back. Damn it. And we do not get the chance to heal the Praetorians back up. So we have some minor losses. Still worth it. Also no sisters went down, so that's great. Ruins. I am not going in there right now. That's a lot of very nasty creatures. I have no intention of facing them just to get some dwarven pickaxe. Hear thee, Imperial Decree. Your illustrious Emperor Liam Falcon hereby decrees that the land north of Griffin River, currently occupied by savage and dragonless orcs, are hereby awarded to the Duchy of Woof for administration and preparation for the war against the demons that has been prophesied and confirmed by the Sacred Order of the Blind Brothers. This action is in the best interest of all in protecting the realm from invasion. Inhabitants are ordered to evacuate the lands. Your Emperor has spoken. Praise Allah, and may the light shine upon us all. As you can see, next turn is going to be pretty intense. Before it begins, let's collect what we can with Lady Cordelia. And while my secondary heroes are already in the area, let's send them to the Stone of Enlightenment. It's free, so there's no reason not to take advantage. I'll spend the additional points on logistics, because that's basically what they take care of, and being swift helps tremendously. And now let's send Umberto for level up. Oh, he has enlightenment. Let's take logistics and send him somewhere south. And now let's move Adelaide. A single movement point too few. Okay, back at Storm Church. There's quite a lot of nice artifacts, but never mind that, they can wait.
This is treachery.
No! What you do is treachery, and worse yet, to your god!
You believe stopping Gerhardt is wrong?
I do not like what he did, but he holds an imperial decree. He has the blessing of our emperor, Elrath's representative on Ashan.
Liam is just a man of politics and backroom deals, not of right and light and honor.
He is still your emperor.
Much to my regret. Putting your arse in a throne should never give you the right to do this.
As you can see, the battle should be fairly straightforward. Praetorian sisters, crossbowmen and a token number of goblins on our side, versus a much less numerous army of sentinels, sisters and crossbowmen and Valeskas. Let me comment on something more interesting that is going on behind the scenes here. I'm going to need to give you some general background information first, so bear with me. Machiavelli distinguished between two kinds of feudal lords or dukes. They are known by many different names in many different places. The core idea is that you have a single prince or a king at the very top and the dukes below him. If we are dealing with the first type of dukes, then they have their own sub-level of sovereignty. In such a system, the vassal of my vassal is not my vassal. Sovereignty is not transitive and the prince can only give orders to his dukes, sometimes called barons. In the second model, dukes are merely conduits, emissaries, representatives of the monarch. All the subjects stay loyal to the prince alone, and they only follow the dukes because that's what the prince wants them to do. The first model is more prone to infighting between the rival dukes, and it is easier to overthrow the prince. But as long as any dukes retain control, you can never simply seize power without appeasing or slaughtering all of them. In the second model, killing dukes is pointless as they can be instantly replaced, but everything hinges on the monarch's ability to survive and give the right orders. As soon as he falls, the kingdom crumbles, and assuming power is trivial. With all that in mind, take a look at the situation here, with Liam Falcon, Gerhard Wolf, Slava Griffin and Sister Valeska. Liam is the prince, Gerhard and Slava are his barons. They have their own territory and subjects loyal personally to them. But what of Valeska? It all seems to fit the first model I've described, and that means that as long as she remains the vassal of Slava, her loyalty is to him, and that's obviously why he was so outraged. This is treachery. On the other hand, she is a member of the clergy, that gives her an allegiance to her dragon god Elrath. Elrath's domain is a kingdom itself, with angels as his vassals, most likely of the second type. Valeska argues that she follows Elrath by following Liam and yielding to Wolf. But this only works if we assume the second model of sovereignty. It could be argued that Elrath wanted Liam as the emperor, but also affirms the chain of command. It's hard to divine the divine wishes. Okay, we've considered blind loyalty to the emperor on one hand, and to your duke on the other, which brings up another conundrum. Where does Slava stand in all this? I instinctively wanted to argue, Pace Hobbes, that if the sovereign gets his power from the people, then reserving the right to disagree with her decisions, or even worse, actively going against them, can lead to civil war, potentially anarchy, or the state of nature as some call it, which is worse than even the worst tyrant imaginable. It's called high treason for a reason, and as soon as the law catches up to you, you're going to end up stripped from your power and dead, publicly executed. Why doesn't this apply here? Well, because power comes from a god, Elrath himself, and Liam is by all accounts weak and foolish. He should have never given such an order in the first place. Slava should have been directly ordered to remove the orcs from the lands. This way he either yields and your hands are clean, or he rebels and you crush him, execute him, and appoint a new duke, or raffle away his land. Meanwhile, Valeska's insubordinance is at an end. Brace yourselves for another cutscene as soon as this battle ends.
What will I do with you, Valeska? You've always lectured me about the 7 virtues of Elrath. Let me show you that unlike your exalted wolf friends, I learn the value of mercy. You are banished from my duchy. Perhaps you can find a comfortable place with Gerhard and his butchers. What news?
Orcs kill more wolf troops. Talk to prisoners. Prisoners say, Big Duke? Big Puke? Puke Gerhard?
Word is Duke, not Puke.
Ah, sorry. Duke Gerhard leads Wolf into Griffin lands.
Imperial decree or not, he's too cocky if he thinks he can come this close. I'll have him on his knees for what he's done.
Another quest is available to us, and as you might have guessed, it is to defeat Duke Gerhard of the Wolf himself. You know, I mindlessly convert the Orcish folds to Haven ones because I want more Haven troops instead of a handful more Goblins, Harpies and Maulers, but isn't this actually following the Imperial Decree we disagree with so strongly? Oh well, I'll go with the interpretation that I'm actually setting up Haven rally points back here and that my recent victories over the Wolf Oppressors is what bolsters recruitment rates. And I hope this is not just to soothe my conscience. By the way, we are going to fight some ghosts. Which shouldn't be too exciting as there's merely 75 of them. In 3 neat, equal stacks. By the way, in our discussion with Valeska, the 7 virtues of Elrath were mentioned, with one of them being mercy. While this gives us extremely limited information, allow me to make a conjecture. As you might know, there are 2 sets of 7 virtues. The first of them is comprised of 4 cardinal and 3 theological ones. The 4 cardinal ones are prudence, justice, temperance and fortitude. Prudence is the virtue of being wise, smart, intelligent. Justice is the virtue of being fair, giving people that which they deserve. Temperance is the virtue of not going overboard, knowing how much is enough. Fortitude is the virtue of being brave, not running away or giving up. Curiously enough, you might notice how these 4 intersect. Justice requires you not to be too harsh nor lenient, in other words, showing restraint, temperance. But temperance requires you to know how much is enough, which in turn requires prudence. Fortitude is necessary to not only know what is right, but to actually follow through and keep doing it. As I've said, these are the 4 cardinal ones that the ancients knew. To them the Christian tradition added 3 additional ones. Faith, hope and love, in the English language commonly referred to as charity, because it is the willingness to give in general. I initially mentioned that there are 2 sets of them, haven't I? But what could possibly the second one be comprised of, you might ask? Here's a tip. Remember the 7 deadly sins? Lust, gluttony, greed, sloth, wrath, envy and pride? Well, there are 7 corresponding virtues, sometimes referred to as heavenly. They are, accordingly, chastity, temperance, charity, diligence, patience, kindness and humility. Patience is the one we're after, since it's the opposite of wrath and responsible for such things as vengefulness. Thus we can conclude that the opposing virtue might as well be named mercy, and that the 7 virtues of Elrath are in fact the ones belonging to the second set, the heavenly ones. But enough about virtues for a moment. As you can see, I've leveled up Adelaide thanks to the Stone of Enlightenment and, predictably, gave her logistics. I'm now going to put that skill to use by sending her after Slava to collect the wayward resources he leaves in his wake. Speaking of whom, the man himself is about to be joined by lots of friendly maulers. While Umberto and Lady Cordelia remain vigilant in the central region, ready to clear troops and artifacts alike should the need arise. we're also about to have company.
Of course I'll miss you, Kate. But I see that your lost brother haunts your nights, and I understand your need to find him. Take care of yourself, my love.
Don't worry. You aren't rid of me yet, Slava Pavlov. I'll send word when I can. Take care of our children.
Slava, feeling all right? Fell asleep. Called out like scared baby teeth.
Huh? Sorry, Kral. I was thinking of Kate.
Must be good dream then.
Not really. I miss her. The children miss her.
Slava, Kroll has question about you and Kate and Gerhard. Something happened during war with elves, made Gerhard hate Slava. Sure, Gerhard lovable like Angry Wyvern, but...
It's a long and complex story. We were in the Stag Duchy. One night the elves came over the wall of Connell's castle, Kate's home. Many died, including Gerhard's fiancée, Kate's twin sister Deirdre. But Gerhard still wanted his bride, and he claimed Kate's hand.
Gerhard smart like dog's butt.
That's when our mutual dislike turned to hatred and bloodshed.
More reason to hate Gerhard. Good to fight for family, keep family together. Hope Kate returns soon.
Not half as much as I do. But who knows how long it will take her to find her brother.
Okay, let's go ahead. What the hell? They're asking for money? Guys, I'm going on an Olympia trying to save your asses and you want to get paid to be rescued? My affinity pass for the friendly creatures are immune to damage dealt by the first 3 attacks each combat.
This artifact is imbued with Elath's magic and it belonged to Istvan. Knowing him, he'll be raising hell until he gets it back.
Why griffins change God, Elath, to Elrath? It is very strange thing to orcs.
Let's just say that angels are powerful and very persuasive, but we still believe that you can choose your own path, as long as you're willing to accept the consequences.
Slava thinks too much. Orcs don't worry about paths. All paths run on Mother Earth, beneath Father Sky. Humans always looking around, wondering about other paths. Maybe why they trip and fall so often.
What is your take on what Kroll said? Take your time, give it some thought, perhaps write a comment. I'm going to be quiet for just a little bit to let you make up your mind. If you don't fancy reflecting or find the answer immediately coming to your mind, here's a bell with some nearby sisters and vestals to keep you entertained. Oh crap, have I explained how Vestals work yet? No, I almost certainly haven't. Believe me or not, I would have remembered. Vestals, as you can obviously see, are an upgrade to Haven's regular core unit, the Sister. As such, they retain their invaluable ability to heal on the battlefield, while also getting a new passive called Pacification. It has a chance to work based on how powerful and numerous the Vestals are as compared to the unit they are attacking. It can only be triggered by the melee attack, and it causes the target unit to do absolutely nothing. You heard me right, the unit slips out of turn sequence as if it was affected by our beloved blind spell. It can work for quite a while depending on the power differential between the units. Of course, I don't really know if this can be triggered on a counter attack from Vestals, I assume it can, and what exactly determines the power differential I so vaguely keep alluding to, although I assume it has something to do with the numbers and magic attack as opposed to the attacked unit's numbers and magic defense. Why am I explaining all of this? Well, for a couple of reasons. First of all, there's certainly a group of people who haven't played the game themselves, or considering how long I take to make these LP videos, perhaps they have already beaten it and moved on, forgotten this one particular ability a given unit has. Secondly, in the poll I've made, there have been recurring mentions of you appreciating me being descriptive and explaining mechanics, which makes a lot of sense since we're dealing with a strategy game where it's crucial for your enjoyment to understand what's going on, and What's the thought process behind both my long and short-term decisions? Finally, this helps me memorize all the information which I'm going to need to do my best to beat the next levels. But let me get back to what I originally wanted to discuss. Slava remarked that his people serve Elrath yet still believe in choosing their own path. Without any background or additional context, this may sound non sequitur. I mean, in what way does serving Elrath influence your ability to choose paths or make choices? It obviously doesn't contradict it, Slava explicitly reassured us of that. In fact, that's exactly the point. Why did he deem it necessary to mention freedom as existing alongside their allegiance to the dragon god? It sounds like he's trying to clear a misconception we might have. Let me elaborate a little bit on the subject. Historically, in real life, there have been two notions of freedom. First of them has religious roots, but its premises might as well be secular. It assumes that in any given situation, if we are supposed to choose out of multiple options, we ought to choose the best of the lot. Okay, so far so good? It makes sense, doesn't it? You have choices and you decide to go for the best of them. Trivial. This is your freedom. When you choose what's best, you are free. You are not free, however, if you choose what is not good. It's a sliding scale. Things are sorted between good and evil, and the less good a choice, the more evil it is. If the choice you make is not the good one, you have fallen into captivity of sin, likely by giving in to temptation. On a curious linguistic note, the word captivating doesn't really sound all that menacing, and it means that you go, ooh, that's nice, and investigate, contemplate, merely poke the thing that caught your interest. Same goes for alluring, even though it suggests that you might have been lured into a trap, just as much as captivating connotates becoming a slave. But I digress. You should have a general understanding of the first type of freedom, if not, just think optimization. The second kind is the modern one. The world is open-ended, the choices are incredibly plentiful, and while of course this doesn't necessarily mean nothing is good or evil anymore, there is certainly a lot more grey area, where on one hand you might have no idea what the implications of a given course of action might be, and on the other hand there's an abundance of neutral choices like your spouse, your vocation, the flavor of tea you are going to drink in a given day. Of course, in some instances ethics may crawl into even such trivial matters, but I was merely giving examples. As opposed to the first type of freedom where choices were optimal, here they are arbitrary. And you are limited in the latter type of freedom if you are deprived of possibilities. Getting back to the world of Ashan, if a given society does not ascribe to the first model of freedom, it can hardly be a theocracy. Think about it. As long as there is only a single path, to use Slava's vocabulary, people can be judged by how closely they follow it, and there can be a certain caste, namely clerics, a caste which divines, hopefully not decides, what is right and wrong for everyone. But if we go beyond that, ethical issues are isolated and have their place rather than everything else being built around them. Suddenly the clerics have their place as well. They might be important, respected, but their field of expertise no longer spans the entire of the population's lives. What does any of this have to do with Ashan? Well, the Falcon Empire is built around dragon worshipping. The reason for this is fairly simple. They have an actual physical dragon to be worshipped and quite a few badass sword-wielding angels who relay his will in no uncertain terms. If I gave off the impression that I find this particularly oppressive, it wasn't by intention. Slava, on the other hand, suggested fairly strongly that this is his take on the matter. Oh well, apparently it's a moot point. Enough about Slava though, it's Kroll's remark that originally piqued my interest. Let's see, he said that all paths run on Mother Earth beneath Father Sky, and snidely expressed his dislike towards being undecided and wondering about possibilities. Let's focus on the former first. Was he trying to say that all paths are somehow equal? That it doesn't matter which we choose? He certainly acknowledged that multiple paths exist, since he said all paths, not the only path. We could take his words to mean that people should make a decision and stick with it, not second-guessing themselves, not flip-flopping, simply following through. It sounds like a reasonable theory, since otherwise you can spend your life in doubt, forever wondering about what-ifs, what you could have done better, and agonizing over the uncertainty of future. But there's an even more intriguing interpretation that presents itself. There's this concept of drifting, or free-flowing, of letting the flow of life guide you onwards. I'd have to revise my Chinese philosophy, but I'm fairly certain that this is the core concept behind Taoism and, as well as to a certain extent, Buddhism Chan, that is the Chinese Buddhism. Of course, generally speaking, the so-called Western world would likely decry such an approach to life, giving a lot more value to thinking and acting over peace and harmony. Of course, we can trace this at least back to Aristotle, who claimed that that which is active is always superior to that which is passive. You might notice a slight incoherence here. Even if Kroll applauds free-flowing, by forsaking the deliberation, he is actually more active than he would have been had he embraced meticulous analysis of facts. So how can we resolve this conundrum? I think the easiest way would be to go all the way back to the notion of freedom and conclude that Slava values self-determination, something which our world embraces as late as modern times, and by modern I mean after the Middle Ages. Kroll, on the other hand, values doing and being over choosing and thinking. On an unrelated note, a few moments ago you witnessed my newly acquired artifact in action. As you could see, it does soak up the damage from the first 3 attacks completely, which is amazing. Nevertheless, I am going to remain cautious in my actions and go for all the advantages I can get. For instance, Umberto just picked up the endless bag of gold. This will allow me to buy all my troops immediately, while also having the spare resources to spend on artifacts. As for my heroes, Adelaide swept up all the resources in the area, so she can go south to join Umberto, who is carrying the bag of gold, and Lady Cordelia, who maintains our base of operations at Stormchurch. After some brief indecisiveness, I choose to return south with Slava as well. He will be easier to reach for troop and artifact transfers, and this is just as well since I plan on clearing the entire map anyway. I might as well start by defeating the water elementals down there. Now, back at Stormchurch. We recruit all the troops. And let's browse the artifacts. We are going to buy the Crest of Honor, which gives +8 to leadership. That's insane. And I debate buying the scrolls, but then I figure you can carry them in your inventory, they are cheap. There's basically no reason not to buy them. I mean, you might need them, if not, who cares? I have the spell gold, don't I? And even if I don't, as you can see that my supply of gold is slowly but steadily declining, I might as well trade my resources for it. I don't need them anymore, I have everything I could ever want in Stormchurch, except for some artifacts, which cost gold. So yeah, let the resource trading commence. Fortunately, in Heroes 6, we only have 4 resources. So it doesn't take as long. And I figure that the gauntlets of the Minotaur are displayed in red because Lady Cordelia cannot use them. Not because I cannot buy them. And while we're buying stuff and recruiting troops, let's also recruit Maximus, another hero at our disposal. And while we're at it, let's upgrade his troops and transfer them to Lady Cordelia, who, as you might have guessed, is going to transfer them further to Slava. Maximus, of course, is going to get Architect 1 to give us even more troops and logistics to be able to help in transfers and whatnot. Let's send him somewhere out here. That's as good a spot for him as any. And let's send Lady Cordelia on her way to meet up with Slava to give him the troops. On a curious note, let me mention something fairly inconsequential yet amusing. During the battle with Eduardo, our goblins scored 2 kills. Let me emphasize this. Our 3 goblins that hang on to their dear lives by a thread have managed to actually deal a pair of killing blows with their pitiful boomerangs. I find this inspiring. Also, Umberto hands over the bag to Cordelia. I like keeping my eggs in the same basket, and I think this is wise as long as Cordelia remains behind the front lines, managing recruitment and artifact purchases at Stormchurch. On the other hand, this means that I can send Umberto into the field, of course not into battle but to gather resources, and I won't risk losing anything of value if he gets captured. And now would be the time for the troop and artifact transfer between Lady Cordelia and Slava. So let's commence. 61 Praetorians, 42 crossbowmen and 31 sisters. Now for the artifacts. Let's give him all the scrolls. Let's give him the crest that gives him +8 to leadership instead of a 4-leaf clover, which gives a measly +1 to fortune, if I remember correctly. And we're all done. Now Lady Cordelia can safely return back to Stormchurch, while Slava is going to attack the water elementals. A trivial task for a powerful warrior such as him. Don't you just love our new artifact? As these elementals will hardly provide a challenge for our forces, let me suggest something else which may keep you on your toes. Try to guess how many minutes or how many battles it will take for our beloved 3 goblins to finally die. By the way, why are the water elementals here on this meadow such a long way from shore? They supposedly rise up from bodies of water after all. Sounds like an intriguing process, to be honest. I have a very vivid imagination, so I see it as a spirit assuming, donning a physical form, pulling the wayward droplets of liquid into a form maintained only through force of will. You may verify this hypothesis as long as you assume body-mind dualism for the purpose of this thought experiment. You may verify this hypothesis when you observe what happens once a water elemental is slain. The water suddenly splashes against the ground, no longer held together. The spirit was the only reason for the gravitational field's bending, otherwise the lifeless yet still weirdly shaped body would have fell to the ground, the same way a human corpse does. But no, such spirits are like a force that forms a wave in the ocean. Once a strong enough barrier is struck, the force ceases to exist and the wave is no more. By the way, you have just witnessed a critical hit dealt by our goblins, a whopping 3 points of damage dealt. And now is the time to heal up my troops. I can either heal up the crossbowmen or the maulers. And guess what? I choose to heal up the maulers. See? I do care about the orcs. And of course the battle is won and the 4 crossbowmen are no more. Level up! That's always good news. I can almost see you guys collectively face-palming and saying, well gee, thank you Captain Obvious, we would have never guessed. Anyway, as much as this might be a surprise to you, I'm going to choose a highly situational ability called Battle March, which increases the movement speed of all my creatures during sieges by 2 points. This is so that when we finally get to storm the castle, closing the distance is not going to be a problem. Now let's move all of my secondary heroes to one spot. I'm doing this to make managing them a little bit easier, but also because I don't want them to get hunted down by an enemy hero suddenly appearing out of the fog of war. Speaking of managing secondary heroes, say hello to Lord Hard. He says hello to you and asks you how you are doing this fine day. As for him, he's fine, he helps with recruitment and knows his way around here better than anyone else. That is to say, he gets Architect Tier 1, Logistics and Pathfinding. Same as everyone else. You are never going to guess where I'm going to send him to. Surprise. Okay, and before Slava gets to fight this unremarkable stack of units, let's send Adelaide to collect the resources he so graciously left behind. Ooh, it's a mixed army of griffins, crossbowmen and sisters. Things should get at least a bit more interesting than they usually are. Griffins! Have I explained how griffins work yet? I think we might have encountered them once at most, but there's no harm in explaining it again, is there? Okay, so griffins have unlimited retaliation, that is to say you can never burn the retaliation, they will simply retaliate as long as there is a single griffin left standing. The second ability is a diving attack, an example of which you are now witnessing. They fly away, and at the end of the turn, they strike at the victim of your choice. The fact that they cannot be targeted in mid-air certainly gives them an advantage. A single passive and a single active ability. Easy stuff. Oh, by the way, this is how you never want to attack. Standing right next to Praetorians who are instantly going to punish you for attempting to help their allies. I say attempting because we receive no damage, the artifact is still working, and it runs out just as the Guardian Angel runs out. Just as the Griffins strike. Excellent timing, yeah, I know it's my fault. Either way, the Griffins go down. And all that remains of the enemy forces are some crossbowmen. So let's approach them. Block them, attack them. As soon as I heal up my troops. Okay, 5 Sisters Raise, 3 Maulers, a single Praetorian. Let's raise the Sisters and end this battle with minor losses. 3 Maulers and a single Praetorian went down. But it's okay. A horde of Sentinels. Let's face them. This shouldn't take too long. Okay, so a heroic strike. Our goblins deal the damage. It's great having them. Oh wow. And the sentinels wait. Okay, that's fine, that's great. And the goblins deal the damage, the crossbowmen shoot. Again. And now a single attack from our Praetorians should put them out of their misery. No need to even cast the Guardian Angel, and the battle is won, no casualties. Since we've entered a new territory as clearly outlined by 2 sets of red and white obelisks, let me pan the camera around a bit to locate all the interactive hotspots and enjoy the view while I'm at it. I'm not a particularly jaded guy, I can find beauty in graphics at resolutions as low as 320 by 200, as long as the beauty is there to be found, that is. I'm sorry to all the radical subjectivists who might be listening right now, but beauty can only be entirely in the eye of the beholder if the object being beheld is hallucinated. Curiously enough, further inquiry led me to believe that even in such a case, the beauty of such an object would likely be based on its hallucinated properties, the properties belonging to the object being held in existence by the beholder and the properties perhaps chosen by him, but how? In such a way so that the properties would make the object beautiful. So it's not like the beholder takes any object and deems it beautiful through sheer force of will. Of course you may argue that the properties that lead an individual to find the object beautiful may be completely arbitrary, and I don't have the time to disprove that right now, but I do disagree. As you can see, we're in yet another fight against a modest number of sentinels. They take their time and wait until I make my moves, so that they may act accordingly, move in a direction and walk a distance optimal for the situation they are in. But of course, with the odds against them so overwhelmingly, their tactical deliberation is laughable, not menacing nor imposing. And with this final strike from my Praetorians, this battle should be over, and it is. No losses. And now we're in control of this dwelling, albeit temporarily, since to gain permanent control over it we would need to conquer the control point for this area, which is likely the castle to the north of here, a location we are going to assault when literally there will be nothing else to find or fight on this map. Taking this into consideration, I need to find a way to keep my temporary control over this outpost. Basically, what I need is a paperweight, someone to put on this dwelling who will stay here. I know this may not sound like the most exciting thing to do for a hero, but if it makes you feel better, you can envision Maximus, since he's the guy I'm going to send here. You can imagine him training additional recruits, spreading propaganda, and generally enforcing loyalty. And now that Slava is free, I can send him to fight the Marksman. Ooh, an upgraded unit for a change. That's quite a bit of Marksman. Although I don't suppose they'll do any damage to my troops since, you know, I have this amazing artifact in my possession. And I just cast Rush on my Praetorians, so they should be able to both block and get rid of a single stack immediately. So the third stack gets a chance to fire once, of course doing no damage, before my crossbowmen get rid of most of it. And by most I literally mean over half, since there were 44 marksmen to begin with and my crossbowmen got rid of 23 of them. As you might have noticed, that's the bare minimum to qualify as most in this case. Oh, if you don't remember what marksmen do, they pierce their targets. Their shots hit everything in line. And now that they are positioned so perfectly, I block the two remaining of them. They wait, and will get taken out by a heroic strike. Victory, no losses. That's a great achievement to have. Okay, there are some harpies to take care of. Although, you know, just as a safety precaution, I would like to go beyond these exterior castle walls, I guess, and just have a look and dissolve the fog of war here, so that if any enemy hero just ventures out, I will know about it. And this road leads absolutely nowhere. It's just eye candy. Ooh! A Stone of Enlightenment. Is it wise to go any further, just to visit it? Ah, screw it, I'm gonna visit it. And we gain some experience. Okay, so Gerhard has a decently sized army. An army I am not going to attack just yet. Let's first venture east and get rid of the tiny shroud of fog of war left there. A new week? You know what this means, don't you? First of all, new recruits. And lots of them. Secondly, new artifacts to peruse. A stone skin scroll, that's decent. A bag of endless gold, even more gold for me. Excellent. Will of thunder, damage of earth plus reduced. Mass heal scroll, that sounds nice. Blood scarf, blood abilities increased. No, Slava is mainly tears oriented. So let's send Lady Cordelia back to Stonechurch. Get the reinforcements and the artifacts. The mass heal scroll is an obvious choice. Any additional healing I can get is welcome. Gauntlets of the Cyclops give +8 to might power. If Slava has inferior ones, I'll buy them. In a few seconds, I'll switch to Slava's hero screen. I want you to look at the bottom right part of it. Read along with me. You reached a new reputation level. Click the upgrade button to achieve enlightenment. Do you have any idea how long this message was just sitting there? First of all, brace yourselves. I am not going to notice this message for the remainder of this level. That's right. I am going to beat it in sweet obliviousness. And now that you know this fact, each time the hero screen pops up, you're going to cringe and ask, why the hell haven't I noticed this yet? And no matter how much you or I would want to change this, it's too late. Anyway, the gauntlets of the Minotaur +4 were inferior to gauntlets of the Cyclops +8, so I traded resources and bought some shiny new gear for Slava. I send Umberto on castle sitting duty, mostly because I ran out of resources buying the gauntlets, and I'll have enough tomorrow to buy the bag of Endless Gold, but I have already sent Lady Cordelia on her way so that she may reach Slava a single turn faster, possibly more if in the future he moves further east than west. Basically, almost everyone has something to do. Slava is exploring, Maximus is holding the dwelling, Lady Cordelia is on her way with artifacts and troops, Umberto went to buy the bag, Adelaide is busy collecting resources. Only Lord Hart is sitting idly on a meadow a few miles from Stormchurch, smelling flowers and being annoyed by the noise from the sawmill in the distance. And of course, Eileen had to ruin all of this and force an encounter before the transfer occurred. But that's okay, it's not like Slava can't handle himself. Okay, let's get the bag of Endless Gold. And transfer it to Lady Cordelia. There we go. Now Umberto can get out of Stormchurch, Cordelia can go on her merry way to meet up with Slava at some point, and Slava can attack Eileen. The first thing you might notice is that Eileen's army is actually quite big. Where I have 76 sisters, she has 92 Vestals. I have 143 crossbowmen, but she has 97 marksmen. Finally, we both have Praetorians, she does 115, Slava 289. Don't take this the wrong way, we are at an advantage when it comes to numbers, barely since most of our units aren't upgraded, but we are. The main reason this battle won't be nail-bitingly close is because Slava has both a very high hero level and very powerful artifacts at his disposal. If we were on even footing, the losses would have been tremendous, even though we'd likely end up victorious anyway. By the way, remember the goblins you were supposed to keep track of? If you had any trouble guessing when they were going to go down, let me tell you the following. The goblins are weak, ineffectual, few and ranged, which is why they are going to have an easy time surviving everything except random splash damage. Why? Because the enemies are not going to target them. They do not pose enough of a threat, especially when compared to the rest of Slava's army. On top of that, as I've mentioned, they are a ranged unit, so they never go into the fray. Rather, they stay back and throw the tiny boomerangs. In summary, they may lead a long and healthy life in my army. The Maulers are not as lucky, as there's only 2 of them left right now, but tough luck, I've moved all of my forces except the goblins and crossbowmen onwards. Even the sisters are out there to dish out the damage they can. So don't feel bad for the Maulers. Besides, I think I've already covered the issue of warriors' honor, dying in battle and the orcish way of fighting. They are doing their part by blocking the enemy marksmen. Notice they've deliberately moved them instead of attacking, since otherwise they might have fallen to a single retaliatory dagger attack. For better or worse, the sisters will likely distract the enemy forces, so the Maulers may actually survive all of this. With the marksmen blocked and the Vestals engulfed in the Guardian Angel, I shift my focus onto the enemy Praetorians. The sooner I take them out, the sooner I may move my own to finish the job on the right side of the battlefield. Unfortunately, they moved to the left. Can you hear that? That is pacification, the passive ability of the Vestals I've told you about some time ago. Look at the sequence display at the bottom left. The sisters have both a debuff and an extern hourglass in the upper corners. They are helpless. I need to get rid of the enemy Praetorians before my own can come to the rescue, and I have done so. In the meantime, I need to do my best to minimize the damage. Slava orders my troops to perform evasive maneuvers. Our goblins score another kill. But the sisters get pacified again. Fortunately, I am able to get across the battlefield with my Praetorians in this very turn. Of course, keep in mind that attacking a unit that is pacified breaks the pacification, so Eileen has been consistently pacifying the sisters and attacking them over and over again. Not making the best use of the spell, in my eyes. With only a few marksmen against our forces, we should be able to win this battle right now. And with that final strike and quite significant losses incurred, we've just defeated Eileen. That was tougher than you expected, wasn't it? But we're back in business. The reinforcements are on their way, and it's only going to be downhill from here. We've reclaimed almost all of my territory and cut off Gerhard's supply lines, as well as any way for him to coerce my people into joining his cause. He's now trapped in that castle, essentially under siege. Here are my reinforcements: 46 crossbowmen, 66 Praetorians, and 42 sisters. There we go. Everything is in order, isn't it? If you think so, you have worse attention span than me. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. Just keep it in mind until I inevitably find out. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, just wait and see, but it's going to take a while. For now, let's read this signpost that eluded my attention long enough. Bonus points if you've been agonizing over what it says since you first spotted it. Reward for Marcus Wolf. The noble-born Marcus Wolf, nephew of Duke Gerhard, has been abducted by orc traitors to the Holy Falcon Empire. An aborted reward shall be awarded to anyone with information leading to his recovery. Do not try to liberate the prince yourself. These orcs are deprived and ignorant and extremely dangerous, etc., etc. This missive seems to have been written by Duke Gerhard himself. So now you know. Also, Maximus stays at the dwelling, Gadalite continues to sweep resources. Lady Cordelia heads back to Stormchurch while Slava is about to attack some rogue harpies. $138 of them. Okay, this battle is probably going to end up fairly unremarkable except for one pivotal detail. Please look at the battlefield. Do you see anything of note? Anything at all? Yes, thank you for that keen observation. There is a stone statue that not only serves as an obstacle blocking a single field, but also very meaningfully and intently shines a beacon of distinctly bluish light. It's so bright, so vivid, but what does it mean? I honestly have no idea. I shall put my sisters under it and hope that they either get a buff or a tan. Honestly, I'm only culturally savvy enough to know that light is either good or reason, or perhaps God. In this context, it probably does something beneficial. But what? Maybe there's a tooltip for it. I don't remember if I ever checked. I'm fairly certain there is none, but... And here we see the goblins scoring yet another kill in their career. Like I said, the 3 goblins that could. And the battle is over. We still have no idea what the light does. Then again, it's shiny, and I guess that's valuable in itself. Gold is also shiny, so let's pick it up. Even though we have Adelaide nearby, who was supposed to be picking up everything, but whatever. I can be inconsistent in my decisions. And what do you know? More harpies to fight. Meanwhile, Eduardo has been recruited yet again, and I'm moving further and further away from the castle. If I get too far away, he might slip between my fingers. What I'm trying to say is that I'm hesitant to move too far away from the castle, since Slava is the only hero with a strong enough army to face anyone. Scratch that, he's the only one with an army, period. As such, if an enemy hero gets through, he could do all sorts of nasty things. Harass my secondary heroes, perhaps even defeat them, capture Stormchurch. There's plenty of unpleasant ramifications this would have, all of them ultimately more annoying than dangerous, but if it can, it should be avoided. Our enemies should be kept on the back foot. As for this battle, as you might have already noticed, the Harpies try to be obnoxious, but thanks to the wonderful artifact that used to belong to Istvan, they cannot! Not a chance! Just look at the beatdown they are getting. They even attempt to hurt our beloved goblins, maiming one of them, as the effects of the artifact finally wear off. But the 3 are still alive, and after they receive medical attention after this battle, they should be back on their feet shortly. After snatching everything we've gained access to by killing the Harpies, it is time to proceed, and this time face Griffins. Oh, interesting. As you can see, 25 of them are actually Imperial Griffins. While Griffins in general are an elite Haven unit, in fact, the only one we've encountered so far, Imperial Griffins are the upgraded version, sporting some nice armor, which at the same time cannot be too heavy, or else it would hinder their ability to fly. It's fashioned out of elven steel, if I recall correctly. It was created back when the Empire was still an excellent diplomatic standing with the elves, something which has changed dramatically, as you might imagine if you recall how Kate's sister Deirdre got killed. When it comes to abilities, Imperial Griffins can perform a diving assault, which not only damages the unit they target, but also any other which may be in their way. Of course, the stats are likely different, but I haven't gone into such specifics yet, and I don't intend to, since things would get really confusing really soon. But I'm fairly certain the might defense is higher, as obviously indicated by the shiny armor they sport. Of course, all the Imperial Griffins are now down, which makes this quite a moot point. Goodbye, my last remaining Mauler. We'll miss you. That's the problem with small stacks. You can't just resuscitate them if all of the units go down. Okay, it is time to use up a healing charge before this battle ends. I can either heal up my crossbowmen, Praetorians or sisters. And I decide to heal up the crossbowmen. And victory! 2 sisters and the last remaining Mauler go down in this battle. May they rest in peace. After slaying the Griffins, scarcely anything remains left. But the Harpies guarding the chest and some gold are an obvious next target. not escaping my sight nor attention, is a small pile of all left behind. One of the few things left for Adelaide to pick up. The All Pit and the Sawmill remain in enemy hands, but sending my heroes to control them sounds too suicidal for me to attempt. I want to remain methodical and thorough, but not at the expense of safety and control. And it's a new week, it's Monday. Gotta recruit troops on Monday. So I was looking forward to the reinforcements. Let's see, we have some fancy new artifacts at the marketplace. A pendant of mastery. A scroll of mass haste. Bracers of the Archmage, they grant implosion. I'm fairly certain some of you are really enthusiastic about the idea of buying them, but let me remind you, people serve as a might-oriented hero. Gauntlets are not gonna change that. The implosion offered by them would likely end up embarrassingly weak and would be disappointed. Grimoire of the Archmage is also out of the question. The remaining artifacts are Gauntlets of the Cyclops and a scroll of Storm Arrows. Delightful. Let's send Lady Cordelia to pick everything up. We get the troops, and now for the artifacts. Gauntlets of the Cyclops really caught my eye. +8 to might power, I'm certain Slava could use them. Look, he has Gauntlets of the Minotaur, which only give +4 to might power. Either way, let's go back and also buy the Mass Haste Scroll. Storm Arrows sound really situational, and the other artifacts are inferior to what he already has. Before this gets too confusing, let me rearrange the artifacts Lady Cordelia has so that I can distinguish the ones she is supposed to hand over to Slava at a glance. I'll move both the scrolls to the bottom right, and next to them place the Gauntlets of the Cyclops. If you actually remember this whole time that I forgot to deliver these, this entire situation probably has an even greater impact on you than on people who merely realized what happened after I bought the second pair of gauntlets. Are you amused or disheartened? Perhaps both? To make things clear, I do not intend to sell the gauntlets. I bought them for a hefty sum and I intend to keep them. Right now, let's stick to the plan I've outlined earlier. Attack the Harpies, get reinforcements, and exhaust anything else this level might still have to offer before attacking Gerhard Wolf in a glorious final confrontation. 128 Harpies. To try something different, I cast Flawless Assault on the Praetorians. Goblins throw the boomerangs. Crossbowmen score a critical hit. And the Praetorians take out a huge chunk out of the green feathered beast's numbers. Naturally, no damage taken. The sisters call the next critical hit in this battle, leaving 11 harpies on the field. The savage beasts try to harm our precious goblins, even scoring a critical hit, but to no avail. My ancestors' blessed equipment protects them from harm. No hope is left for the harpies. As they finally go down, the blow struck by my Haven ranged units. Only Imperial crossbowmen are so precise. Well, apart from Imperial marksmen. I have stripped the area clean of resources. And even enough with Adelaide. With Slava, since he was around and I didn't have the patience to wait for her. By the way, do you know what time it is? It's transfer time. Lady Cordelia and Slava finally get a chance to exchange some brief remarks, as 42 sisters, 46 crossbowmen and 66 Praetorians regroup with the main army. Slava also belatedly gets his Gauntlets of the Cyclops, plus 2 scrolls, while the second pair, here's a twist, while the second pair is given to Lady Cordelia. She deserves them. As far as I know, the entire map is now clear. Apart from those ruins, the ones with the dwarven pickaxe that we've left for later, well, guess what? It is later. However, before I send Slava there, even though his army should be significantly more powerful by now, let's wait until next week and bolster his forces even further. It's the week of Sulfur, which is even more amusing once you realize that we don't use Sulfur in this game. Okay, let's head to Stormchurch. With Lady Cordelia, obviously. And back here we are going to recruit our troops as we always do, and we are going to mindfully inspect the artifacts at the marketplace. The clover is underwhelming, the boots of the welfare sound amazing until you realize that, first of all, Slava has better boots that grant +1 to movement for his troops, and secondly, there is no rush, we don't need to hurry anywhere. The spoilers of the Avenger give you a boost to gained blood reputation. We do not wish to gain blood reputation, besides a forgettable reputation. Cape of Protection is weak, the slow scroll is cheap, we are going to get it. As for the crystal eyeglass, I think it's always a good choice to spend resources on things that give you resources. And finally, with the excess gold, I do buy the boots of the welfare, but not because Slava is ever going to use them, no, they belong to Lady Cordelia. Girl deserves some new shoes. Also, she's running around a lot and I have excess gold that is only going to pile up higher and higher, so I might as well. Also, if you are wondering why I just gave the crystal eyeglass to Umberto, it's because a hero can only use 3 miscellaneous artifacts at a time, and Lady Cordelia already has 3 gold generating bags to take care of. Well, I remember that I should do so, and since my other resources are uselessly piling up anyway, let's trade wood, ore and crystal away for gold. And use said gold to recruit our final helper hero, Rosalie. Let's give her, as you might have guessed, logistics and architect tier 1. And finally, there we go, pathfinding. She's all set. And now she can join the rest of the lot in frolicking on the green meadows a few miles away from Stormchurch. Ah, the ruins beckon! But first, let me demonstrate just how far this girl can go with logistics, pathfinding and the newly bought boots of the Wayfarer. Yay! Now relax people, I know I'm going to end this mission soon, I promise. Just let me take care of the ruins and we're all set. I know I'm enjoying myself way too much, especially considering that this is just a tutorial mission. Then again, can you enjoy yourself too much? Isn't this the whole point? Well, either way, let's head towards the ruins as soon as I do 2 things. Check the threat level on Gerhardt and let 1 last week pass before setting off never to return for Stormchurch reinforcements again. The threat level on Wolf is average. Let me repeat that, the threat level on Wolf is average. It went all the way down from, what was it, severe, but now he doesn't control almost anything. And I get ridiculous amounts of units each week, and as such my advantage continues to grow. But it's the week of hope and high time to finally act. I get the final reinforcements from Stormchurch. Let's check the marketplace one last time to see if there's anything noteworthy. Nexus of Tears, excellent. It boosts Tears abilities which are defensive, which is why I like to use in our battles. This boosts skating, it's only available to Inferno heroes. This gives luck, but it's worse than the set items Slava already has. Plus 10 against fire damage is situational. The Coom gives Puppet Master and more magic power, which is not for this hero type. Slava is a might hero. And we get the slow scroll because, hey, it's cheap and you only need to throw it into your backpack. And maybe someday it will be useful. We're all set, and Lady Cordelia is on her way to meet up with Slava one last time to hand him 67 Praetorians, 47 crossbowmen and 46 sisters. As well as 2 slow scrolls and the Amulet of Tears, which he cannot use because he does not have enough Tears reputation, which he does not have in turn because I haven't noticed the Tears reputation level up on his hero screen. Sorry guys. Oh well. As you can see, Eduardo is back in action and ready to get his ass kicked. But he'll have to wait just a tiny little bit because right now Slava is about to descend into elemental infested ruins. Ah, elementals. I have already covered water and earth, forgotten completely about air, even though it was a gruesome encounter, and now we are facing fire and darkness ones. The fire elementals, as you no doubt have already noticed, are ranged units. But let's get down to business. No active, free passive abilities. First of all, Spirit Form. Apparently all elementals have it. If you've already forgotten, Spirit Form takes away half damage dealt until a unit performs an action. But what's amazing is that apparently waiting and defending do not count as performing an action. So Spirit Form doesn't have to disappear as soon as it is the turn of the creature that possesses it. They can wait and strike at the end of the turn, or even defend and force the enemy to either ignore them or waste half the damage while attacking them instead of targets without active Spirit Form. Fire elementals also have fire affinity, which grants them 50% resistance to fire damage and 50% vulnerability to water damage. They also have fireball, which deals damage to melee troops attacking them. You probably know this ability as Fire Shield if you're fans of the prequels. And finally, the last ability is cremation, which causes them to explode in a violent inferno upon death, dealing damage to all foolish enough to stand around them. Darkness elementals also have Spirit Form, as well as Darkness Affinity, which gives them 50% resistance to darkness and 50% vulnerability to light-based damage. 3 more passive abilities. Shadow Strike, which allows them to reappear near their prey, if it is within their movement range, and attack immediately afterwards, disappearing into the shadows and returning to their original position. You likely have already seen that. They also have Shadow Form, which means that with every attack they dispel a positive effect from their target. If you've been paying close attention to the little green triangles above my unit count, you might have noticed this happening already. Do not, however, pay attention to the green triangles and the darkness elementals themselves. That's actually a bug that's been fixed in the newer patches, I think. Finally, there's Weakening Grasp, which reduces the might damage dealt by the creatures they hit, which should be displayed as a little red debuff triangle, but for some reason it isn't. Oh well, maybe next time, right? Assuming it's a bug that's going to be fixed and not merely me not understanding how things work here. To clarify, if a unit has both buffs and debuffs, you see 2 arrows and triangles, 1 green and 1 red. It's not the case that with 1 buff and 1 debuff things suddenly get even and disappear from the graphical user interface. Also, I don't think darkness elementals should hang out with fire elementals. Think about it, fire is one of the most obvious and accessible sources of light. Why would they do that? Elementals, guys, you just can't understand them. The battle is won. Only 2 crossbowmen lost and a level up. And of course that dwarven pickaxe is ours. We are going to get all the ore we could ever want. And then some more. Okay, so now would be the time to hand the dwarven pickaxe over to Umberto, since obviously the Cordelia is carrying 3 bags. Oh, and to spend the last point of the level up, I spent it on Reinforcements, which is our ability which summons more troops to your army, though the troops are temporary. If they go down, they go down. If they do not go down, they do not stay with your army after the battle, so you're actually encouraged to use them as buffer. Umberto now has the pickaxe. We visit the rally flag for all the bonuses it lends us. And now would be the time to attack Duke Gerhard. Something you likely have been waiting for quite a while now.
Nice castle. Makes big fancy tomb for Gerhard.
Our quest log clearly shows that this is the last thing left to be done. Before we get to fight Gerhard of the Wolf, however, we must first face his lackey Eduardo. This should be a short and simple victory. A nice warm-up and morale boost for our forces. Because honestly, I sincerely hope none of you think that I'm going to incur any losses in this encounter. By the way, if you are still keeping track, the goblins are alive and well. Also, just as we are nearing the end of this battle, we are also nearing the end of this scenario. In these final moments, I'd like you to not only enjoy the sights of the final confrontation with Wolf, but also hear my closing thoughts on some of the issues that presented themselves throughout this mission. When I first analyzed the disagreement between Valeska and Slava, my focus was fairly narrow. It ultimately showed two separate facts. One, that Valeska did a very ignoble thing by betraying what we assume to be her direct superior, and two, that Slava committed high treason by betraying his direct superior, Emperor Liam Falcon, by waging civil war, which is the most heinous of all types of war. As soon as you put things in such a perspective, the answers no longer appear to be so clear-cut anymore. Slava betrayed a superior out of loyalty to his friends. Valeska betrayed him out of loyalty to the Emperor and by proxy to her god. What I find the most redeeming for her is that I can't possibly fathom her intentions being bad. You could hear suffering in her voice. She desperately did not want to choose sides. She had no stakes in this. There was nothing she could gain by defying Slava. In fact, she put her very life at stake, only in the name of doing what she believed was right and just. A horrible thing indeed. She chose defiance in the name of loyalty. When it comes to Gerhard Wolf, I have no illusions. I may be wrong, of course, but I'd argue that motivations and intentions are crucial in determining the ethical standing of each individual cast into this turbulent situation. Of course, from a political standpoint, that's fairly moot, and as I've already said, Slava should either be executed, since he's a traitor to the crown, or crowned as the new emperor, since the current one is an incompetent louse. Wolf is obedient and that makes him useful, but if he's too much of a loose cannon, Liam could get rid of him as well. I've already analyzed the political situation involved, and let me get back to the personal and ethical side. As I've said, I have no illusions when it comes to Wolf. He is a brutish and a violent man. Noted that these are the traits one would easily associate with orcs. Yet you can see that even though in some sense orcs might fit this description, that the similarity between them is stunning. The orcs are noble warriors who do not fight dirty. Quite the opposite, you may even claim that they are unrefined, since they charge head-on at the enemy's battle cries and all. Wolf, on the other hand, is a bitter, despicable man who seems to take pleasure in perhaps not causing suffering, since he's not that much of a monster, but I believe causing fear and being in control, in a position of power, is what intoxicates him. He is wild and reckless and probably believes that the best things in life are crushing your enemies, seeing them driven before you and hearing the lamentation of their women. Once again, if you think that is an accurate description, notice who he is fighting against. The orcs! The irony of the situation is immense. We've established that what he is doing is atrocious, pretty much. There's no such thing as a Geneva Convention, but if there was, he'd likely violate it unscrupulously. Ain't war hell. 10 points if you get that one. Of course, killing orcish children, which was at the very least strongly suggested as something he's doing, may be a horrible act, but brace yourselves for an inconvenient burst of undeniable logic. If you leave an orcish child alive after murdering its parents, what do you think is going to happen? That's right, that little piece of shit is going to grow up and stick a machete up your ass. That's not exactly something you want to worry about years down the line, when you've already forgotten all about some orc-slaying nonsense that for this kid was the most important day of his life, but for you it was just Tuesday. By the way, Machiavelli was aware of this problem and as such suggested that, of course, in a perfect world, you should do no harm to anyone. But if you have to harm someone, however, make absolutely sure that he will never be able to retaliate. The same goes for anyone who might feel obligated to avenge him or see dethroning you as a viable way of achieving his goals. Now, of course, and this is merely a tangent, but a curious one, of course the last thing you should do is humiliate or deprive someone. With the former, you're just making them angry and gain nothing. With the latter, you are forgetting that the most dangerous man is one without anything to lose. You take away his stuff, he suddenly doesn't have to worry about it anymore. Back to the orcs. We already know that Wolf is a scoundrel, and not even the lovable kind that shoots first. He's being vicious, murderous and so on and so forth. But are the orders he is given fundamentally wrong? Some of you might say, whoa man, of course they are. Liam Falcon just like up and exiled all the orcs for no good reason. And you'd have a point. You might argue that just because someone was born an orc, it doesn't automatically mean he's a demon worshipper. That's a racist stereotype. Sure, Togrul was a mean bastard and happened to also be an orc, but that doesn't mean that all orcs are like him, quite on the contrary. The spirits of the orcish ancestors condemned all of his vile deeds as extreme deviation that some might argue stripped him from the very right to call himself an orc. All of this sounds pretty reasonable until you shift the paradigm a bit and ask, what right did the orcs really have to become citizens of the Falcon Empire? If you think about the real world issues associated with gaining citizenships, it's usually a pretty big deal and requires the approval from officials not only high enough in hierarchy but also representing the central government. And I'm not saying Liam was in the right here, I'm saying it was well within his purview. That's the kind of a big deal that a single duke cannot decide about on his own. Now, if Slava brought an orcish representative before the royal countenance and officially pleaded for the permission allowing orcs to settle on Empire's soil, things would have been a lot less ambiguous, but I strongly doubt that was the case. Finally, you have to understand that the Empire is a giant monocultural gathering of duchies unified in worship of the Dragon of Light. The orcs live in a tribal society comprised of many different species, practice shamanism and worship sky and earth. Introducing such cultural diversity into an otherwise monolithic political organism is not safe for anyone. It can polarize the disparate societies into mutually hostile groups. That's one possibility, burning orcish villages, blaming them for diseases and so on and so forth. The other possibility is that the Empire implodes and social order eventually breaks down as radical groups rebel against the rules and officials that governed their lives up until this point. You'll get heretics, anarchists, orc sympathizers. Once people learn that things don't have to be the way they used to, they might bring chaos in the name of change. Yet another issue is that perhaps Elrath and his angels would not take kindly to the situation and... for one, either order the orcs to leave or kill them themselves, and secondly, tighten the grip they have on the Empire even further. Take all of the above into consideration and you'll see that asking the orcs to leave is not unreasonable or unnecessarily cruel in and of itself. And besides, it's not like they have nowhere to return to. They set out years ago to find Togrul and might as well return to where they came from. Obviously, if that's even necessary to reiterate at this point, the way Wolf went about things was taking things too far, to say the least. Though one can wonder whether orcs would obey if asked politely. And if not, what then? One last possible theory I have about all of this is that perhaps the Imperial Decree was forged by Gerhard Wolf himself. It would somewhat excuse Liam's incompetence in handling such a delicate matter, but wouldn't quite account for the extreme confidence Gerhard exhibited. After all, if we assume that the Emperor is somewhat competent, such a crime would not go unpunished.
Scum! Wife stealer! Heretic! Why don't you just accept your fate and call me winner?
I came as quickly as I could when I heard that two of my dukes were at war.
The war is over, Your Majesty, and Gerhard is going home. Your journey was a waste of time.
Slava, do not speak to me as...
Friends.
I think he's talking to you two.
Duke Slava. I recall the heroism of you and your family when demon-worshipping orcs invaded your duchy.
You honor me, my lord.
Yet now you permit orcs to run free, here upon the land that is sacred to Elrath.
They have killed as many demons as I.
And Gerhard, in your zeal to cleanse the lands, you lost many troops.
True, my lord.
Yet you both know the prophecy. A demon invasion is imminent, and you waste troops on petty squabbles. You, Gerhard, will withdraw your troops. Your emperor agrees.
I must consider.
But there will be no lasting peace without a union. Slava, do you not have daughters? And does Gerhardt not seek a wife?
He does. And I do.
They're children.
They will grow up sooner than you think. Your eldest Irina will be given in wedlock to Gerhardt. Is this not in line with your desires, Your Majesty?
Ah, yes. Perfectly. Perfectly.
Then the blessings of Elrath upon you. Prepare for war, friends. The demons are coming. For the light!
Both of you, leave my land.
I will have your daughter. And for such an important union, the dowry should be large.
Take the bones of your dead kinsmen home as dowry, Gerhardt. You won't get a handful of dirt more.
Then I'll take it from Irina's hide. Wolf, we hunt!
Slava, look what your quick temper has done to your family this time.
This concludes the second level of the tutorial. I certainly hope you have found at least some parts of it to be entertaining and that you're looking forward to seeing the actual campaigns. Bye guys.